So they're definitely looking to shake things up. And, I mean, Toronto, listen, we already know the big names that they've gotten in terms of Bradley and Defoe. Of course, one out of the two are here right now with Bradley being here. But let's not forget about Dero. You know, it's a huge acquisition. He's back home, and I think he's going to play a huge part in terms of what Ryan Nelson wants to do with this squad.
De Rosario on the ball right there. Justin Morrow playing it forward, looking for Reggie Lamb. As Toronto attacks down that left-hand side, the ball deflected out of bounds. And it's going to be a goal kick for DC in the end, despite the protests of Toronto. At the other end, Joe Bendick did make the first save of the game from a Luis Silva free kick on a flicked header. So that was the first scoring chance of the game. Toronto and DC just underway, 5 minutes in from Bradenton, Florida. And again, nothing we can do about the fog. We're going to bring this one to you as best as we can. And if I slip into radio announcer mode, it's because I know you may not be able to see the entire field.
John, I've played in a lot of different weather conditions, but nothing like this. This is absolutely ridiculous.
We had the national anthems of both the United States and Canada. Unfortunately, no flags were visible because the flagpole is located too far away from the field. Aparicio goes forward here for Toronto, looking for De Rosario, knocked away by Bobby Boswell, those two former teammates. And in the end, Boswell concedes the first corner of the game. It'll be a Toronto corner on the far side of the field, Toronto's right.
Right away, first couple plays of the game, Dero trying to get at Boswell, going into the flanks and trying to use him with his speed going in, and it's proven to be effective, causing them to get a corner kick right now. And the last time it was a throw-in.
21-year-old Jonathan Osorio, wearing number 21, delivers, and it's headed away at the near post, still loose in the area. And now DC United able to clear. Nick De Leon running down the left-hand side for DC United. 3 against 3 at the moment. Aparicio trying to come back. Great moves by De Leon. Split 2, got taken down. Free kick coming for DC United in a dangerous spot.
Great player for me. Nick De Leon, definitely contention for runner-up for the Rookie of the Year a couple years ago. He's going to have a great season for them to have some final good results this season. Look to him to play on both sides and just be effective with whipping balls in when need be.
Yellow card issued there, and to be quite honest, I'm not entirely sure against whom. I know it was against Toronto, and I believe it was Ryan Richter, one of the center backs, but I'm not sure. Again, we are 7 minutes in. We apologize for the lack of visibility due to fog. That's out of our control. We'll bring this to you as best as we can. It's another free kick chance for DC United. Silva's delivery is headed away. And still battling for it, DC United. Trying to play 1-2 at the top of the area. The shot coming from the outside, and it's off the mark from Davey Arno. It'll be a goal kick for Joe Bendick. These two teams obviously struggled last year. We don't have to tell you. DC United 10th in the East, Toronto 9th in the East. But the buzz around both of them in the offseason has really been kind of a rejuvenation. We talked to Dwayne De Rosario, who, of course, has played in Toronto before and is from Ontario. And he said it's kind of like the first year when Toronto was first coming into the league, the excitement he feels around the city. So very excited to be back in Toronto for a second stint.
I mean, you pick up some big boys like Bradley and Defoe. You know, you got to always have that type of buzz. World-class players. I think D-Rose fell into the right situation at the right time, and he's gonna want to, prove himself again and show that his age is not going to play a factor into what he's going to produce on the pitch. I think, again, Ryan Nelson's done great in terms of bringing him back. It's big for the city, big for D-Rose, and big for the club.
8th minute, no score. DC United throwing in on that near side. Reggie Lamb clears it, and Bobby Boswell will marshal the defense in front of Andrew Dykstra. Both these teams will use entirely different groups, or almost entirely different groups in the second half. Might be a Toronto player or two that will carry over. Long ball by Silva, targeting Kyle Porter. And it does fall to Porter with Reggie Lamb defending. DC with most of the possession in the early going. And this is Sean Franklin trying to play it into the box. Headed away now by Justin Morrow, again acquired from San Jose by Toronto. Preseason action around Major League Soccer today. Most of it available to you on MLSsoccer.com. We'll keep you updated on the scores and goings-on throughout the day. Here's Michael Bradley in the midfield for Toronto. Played it for Reggie Lamb, deflected there though, and runs out of bounds for a Toronto throw-in. Here's Bradley on the ball. Corey, Michael Bradley, obviously so much made of his move and a lot of pressure on him to produce. He's playing a role that's, not always the most visible. Yes, it's center mid, but Michael Bradley tends to play a little bit deeper. How does that affect the expectations for him in this first year back in MLS?
I mean, it's something he's very familiar with. He's playing in a position where he likes well. Is it a lot for the value of the type of position it is? Yes, but listen, they really wanted him, and they've landed him, and it's something where he's going to prove why he's worth every penny. I've played with Bradley, and I think it's a great acquisition for Toronto. He's going to be a statue for that club, being able to hold the ball, the movements, and not only offensively, but of course defensively to break plays up in that central midfield role.
And he's made a career out of getting forward from that spot, right? I mean,
exactly.
Great years in Europe, so Toronto's hoping some of that will translate as well.
Exactly. Similar to a Lampard. I think he's going to be able to do the work defensively and then get himself an attack in the final third and produce a couple goals if need be.
Well, right there, he came back to win the ball for Toronto. 10 minutes in here in Bradenton, no score between Toronto FC and DC United. Jonathan Yardley, Corey Gibbs, and the Fog with you on this Wednesday evening. Glad MLS is back. Glad to see Toronto and DC for the first time this year. Unfortunately, we can't bring it to you with a little more clarity. Again, hopefully the fog will dissipate as the night wears on. Here's Jonathan Osorio. I know a player you have high hopes for, Corey. Looking for Dwayne De Rosario. Trying to feed Andrew Wiedemann behind the defense. And desperate tackle there from Park and the DC United back line, and they are able to clear.
I'm a huge fan of Osorio. I think he's going to combine well with Bradley if those two do match up. Young kid, great vibe about him, very electric, and buzzes well off the ball and creates a lot offensively.
Great movement there by Toronto to set up a shot. It did go high in the end, but you could see Ryan Nelson, another coach who talked to us about we've worked so far on offensive movement a lot.
Yeah.
And you saw some very good interchanging there.
Yeah, definitely another thing, the first 10 minutes, what you've noticed, good shot on goal there.
That was a couple minutes ago, one of Wiedemann's earlier chances.
Bradley's always on the ball. That's what you're going to get. And I think that's something that's going to be huge for this Toronto side. He falls back, and when the two center backs split, he falls back to want to get that ball and combine and always looking to produce offensively. So instead of the center backs creating the game, you could tell right now Ryan Nelson has Michael Bradley dropping back, getting the ball, and then creating the attack. So his value is really going to come huge for them.
Long ball almost fell to Connor Doyle, but offside flag was up in the end. It'll be a free kick to Toronto. As you get a look at Doyle, 22-year-old in his second MLS season, but his first full year out of McKinney Boyd High School in Texas, and player with Darby County for several years. Now we're starting to see the fog lifting. We may be able to actually be able to see the far touchline, Corey.
Exactly. Now we could call the game properly.
Switch there for Nick Haglund, the rookie center back, and his pass was picked off in the middle of the field by Perry Kitchen for DC United.
My biggest concern for Michael Bradley is his frustration going to kick in at times when his level's so high and these players are trying to do things like we just saw and not being able to pull it off. It's going to probably make him think twice about making that 60, 70-yard pass, what he's most comfortable doing, trusting his teammates to get it and produce something, and then he might fall back into making those 5- and 10-yard passes. I think the players are going to have to adapt and believe in themselves when they're on the ball, so it's going to be something huge. And I think experience from this Toronto side is going to play a huge part to their success.
13th minute, no score in Bradenton. Toronto FC and DC United. One of the highest profile preseason contests of the year, Michael Bradley's Toronto FC debut. There he is on the ball, winning it again for Toronto, wearing the captain's armband this evening.
Always on the ball, always wanting it, connecting, playing, moving into space. That's exactly what you're going to get from Bradley, and that's exactly why he's come back to this league, and that's exactly why he's going to make this Toronto team that much better.
Chris Manella, an Academy product, saw his pass intercepted there. He and Aparicio have switched spots on the right for the moment. Here's Osorio in the middle. Good footwork. Wiedemann to Aparicio. Aparicio, top of the area. Good dummy run there. Shot coming in. Great stop by Dykstra. And a big save early to deny Toronto.
Great movement off the ball, though. We see the combination play, the dummy that goes through, the quick touch, and then the shot on goal. Great combination by Toronto. Something we definitely didn't see last season.
Andrew Dykstra, part of that DC United goalkeeping group. Of course, Bill Hamid, Joe Willis, and Dykstra. Bill Hamid is here, worked out before the game, just getting in to preseason, but not going to play today. They'll see him later in the week. So we'll see Dykstra in the first half. He was on loan to Richmond last year. He's played the last 3 years at the USL Pro level. And we'll see Joe Willis in the second half. Toronto FC with the ball at the moment. 15th minute. Bradley pressured by Connor Doyle, but otherwise DC United dropping off. And this is one of the things we were curious to see, Corey, was how would that DC United midfield shape up with Kitchen, Silva, and Arno all listed as central midfielders.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see Kitchen holding and the other two just expressing themselves. Arnaud definitely has an engine to get from box to box, so we're not really worried about him. It's just really how Silva's going to fit into this lineup if he does end up starting and combining with the likes of Eddie Johnson and Espindal up top, who we expect to start, and Nick DeLeon on the left-hand side.
Jeff Park with a slide tackle on that far side of the field for DC United. Toronto to throw in. The always active Dwayne De Rosario in the corner, and it's knocked out of bounds for a second corner kick for Toronto FC.
Yeah, we've seen a number of times tonight Tyler Kemp being pulled out of position and leaving Boswell isolated on that flank. You don't want to see Boswell isolated 1v1. I just think he's too slow to be out there that many times.
Aparicio sending the cross after the short corner. It comes out for another Toronto throw-in. De Rosario took that throw-in from the track, and Toronto will reset. He looks lively, D-Ro. He looks up for it. He looks, I mean, rejuvenated is kind of too easy a word, but he looks fresh.
He's home. It's a new start. Ryan Nelson knows him. He's an ex-player. He's always got that vibe for him, and like I said, he has something to prove. People don't expect him to do much or produce a lot for this Toronto side, but I know D-Ro well, and I know him well enough to know that every day in training and every game that he's going to produce and want to do his best. So if it's a preseason game, it's a regular season game, it doesn't matter. He's going to come out there and give his all for 90 minutes if he has to.
Just 3 goals, 2 assists for D-Ro last year when he played for DC United. Of course, MVP a couple of years ago in 2011.
You know, John, I say it all the time. You can't do much if the rest of the team's not doing anything. So the numbers don't mean much to me. I've seen him play a lot last season, and he's tried a lot in terms of trying to do things, and that showed me a lot. So D-Rose still has a lot in his engine. It's not over yet for him, and I think with all the help and the reinforcements this year for Toronto, it should be big.
Cross to flex to Silva in the box. Neat touch for De Leon. He couldn't get much on it. It was cleared off the line. Big stop by Toronto at the other end. We've gone end to end.
Yeah, definitely. Great combination play again. Nick DeLeon finds himself on the end of that one, and yeah, Toronto clears it right off the line. Should have been 1-0.
I really liked Luis Silva on that play. He was looking to the right side, and his first target for the pass was offside, and he just held the ball, waited for another run, and played that one in perfectly.
But what about Nick DeLeon? Huh? He's been bright. He's been definitely bright these first 17 minutes. Definitely trying to work down that flank against Manila and create some stuff.
It's because of the pep talk you gave him this morning.
Definitely.
18th minute, no score. Glad you could join us from Bradenton, Florida, and we're glad the fog has lifted somewhat. We think you can see the far touchline now in the grandstand here at the IMG Stadium. Just opened after a renovation in August. Still working on the facilities here and home to several MLS teams this preseason. We saw New England here earlier watching the Columbus game. Here's Reggie Lamb is coming to the middle, tries to get it back, and that one runs out for a throw-in. But let's go back to the chance for DC United just a couple of minutes ago. And here's the cross, but watch De Leon get this one off.
Great touch, great flick to Nick DeLeon. Good vision to know that his teammate's going to be running behind him. And good chance on goal, just good clearance by the Toronto defense to prevent the goal-scoring opportunity.
It was Nick Hagelin, the rookie out of Xavier, who got back to the goal line to clear that one away as we get a foul in the midfield and a free kick to Toronto. And he was the guy taken 10th in the Super Draft, and Ryan Nelson very happy to add him to his stable of center backs. I think Ryan Nelson, of all people, should have exacting standards for center backs.
Exactly. Just like we witnessed with Bearhalter with the Columbus
Yes.
Crew today.
There's Manella, the Academy product, and he's nearing the end of his age eligibility with the Toronto Academy, so hoping to make an impact here in preseason. Chance at the other end for Toronto. Shot coming and held by Andrew Dykstra. On the rip from Manny Aparicio, who had switched sides.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is not going to be the same DC United team to start off when the season starts. We have a lot of key players that are missing for DC United, and we're going to see a lot more faces, later on in the preseason stages, and they're going to be a lot more stronger. Of course, Bill Amida in goal, Eddie Johnson and Espindola. We have Pontius, who's also out. Luis Nil, who had a good season last year. Korb. There's a lot of names out there that they're missing, but so this is really just to get the ball out of the legs and get some fitness.
Great moves by Silva, who's down at the moment. He got it to De Leon, who fires, and it's knocked aside by Joe Bendick. But the more worrisome sign for DC United is Luis Silva still down in the middle of the field.
Yeah, definitely. I think he got a knock there. But what I love, again, Nick De Leon just showing his brightness in this first 20 minutes. I mean, he's been working that left-hand flank. For me right now, player of the match outside of Michael Bradley.
Silva back on his feet at this point. Just out of your camera picture, and the DC training staff looking at him. But again, Corey was running through the injuries. It is a lengthy list of injuries, none of them expected to be long-term ones, but it's keeping a lot of players out of tonight's game, and good to see Silva trot off the field.
Yeah, I mean, everything's a worry right now for Ben Olsen, isn't it? I mean, he's under a lot of pressure from last season, so he wants his team in good form.
De Leon's corner, looking back post. Ball played back across and headed away by Reggie Lamb. Chipped back in by DC, kept alive by Arno. And Bobby Boswell whistled for a foul in the attacking penalty area as Silva trots back on. But yeah, Eddie Johnson will arrive tomorrow. Fabian Espindola has a little ankle injury that he's not at 100%, and you mentioned several of the others unable to go. On the Toronto side, they're, of course, without Jermaine Defoe. The Brazilians, Gilberto and Jackson, have not yet arrived. And couple of the rookies as well, not fully settled into camp just yet.
Exactly. So again, this is just for the fitness, getting a team organization, getting a team shape, letting them play against opposition, and getting a feel for how the regular season is going to shape up. When those big boys and big names come in, you're going to see a whole different DC United and Toronto team.
De Leon switches it here to the right back, Sean Franklin. You talk about getting someone to shore up that position, and Sean Franklin's been one of the best right backs in MLS for several years now.
Definitely. And, I mean, DC went out there to get him. It shows. I mean, they spent a lot of money in terms of acquiring him. But
because they took him at his current contract in the first stage of the reentry draft.
Exactly. But you know what? It's a good decision. He's got a lot of experience. He's learned a lot. He's won a lot of championships. He was Rookie of the Year. I think he's well worth every dollar, and he's going to solidify that spot for DC United for sure.
Osorio finds Michael Bradley. He and Reggie Lamb connected, but then Lamb's pass was behind the run of Andrew Wiedemann, and DC United able to bring it back to Andrew Dykstra, former starter with the Chicago Fire, who you know well. DC will play the Chicago Fire Saturday night here. We'll have it for you on MLSsoccer.com. Can't predict yet how much fog we'll have, but we're hoping to avoid it.
Can't be much worse than this.
I know, right? 23 minutes in, no score between Toronto and DC United on this Wednesday night. Bobby Boswell, second stint with DC United, started his career there, of course, 2005 to 2007. And then 6 years in Houston, now back to DC again via the reentry draft. Taylor Kemp under pressure in his own corner, gets it away to De Leon. Really good first touch by De Leon, and then Arno tried to go up the line to Connor Doyle, but Ryan Richter cleans it up to Joe Bendick. And a foul whistled against Boswell in the center circle. It'll be a free kick to Toronto.
You know, it's going to be interesting to see how these two center backs pair up this season, John. I mean, Boswell and Park, as you saw just a bit earlier when Toronto was on that break, Boswell's really worried about his speed, and he's going to drop off on his line and not let the other defenders know, which is going to cause a lot of space behind Park, without and Franklin not knowing what's going on. So that partnership's going to have to be key in terms of both of them trusting each other and being on the same page. Again, this is the first game of preseason. They have some time to get it right, but they can't waste any time in terms of them trying to get results early.
Reggie Lamb running at that DC defense, and Park just got a touch on that ball to slow it down. Here's Bradley going forward. Chance for Manella to cross it, and punched away by Dykstra rather than catching at the near post. And DC is able to clear. Doyle and Richter battling at midfield, and a foul whistled, be a free kick to DC United. Here's a look back at one of those chances that Andrew Dykstra dealt with. He's been busier than he'd like to be in the early going, and busier than Ben Olsen would probably like him to be.
Yeah, for sure. But Toronto's been busy. They've been live. They've had good chances, good runs off the ball. I think D-Rose done a good job to find himself into those flanks, and it's caused them troubles. But Dykstra showed up well. It's been a bright start for Toronto thus far.
DC United last year, 19th last in Major League Soccer in offense, 0.65 goals per game. 18th in defense. We asked Ben Olsen, and he wasn't shy about saying we weren't really particularly good on either end. As Toronto gets forward, trying to find Di Rosario, and it's cleaned up by the DC center backs. And with that in mind, they went out and they went veteran heavy. I mean, we're talking 7 guys with multiple years of MLS experience acquired early in the offseason at a significant expense in terms of allocation money. They have allocation money for missing the playoffs. Here's a long ball, pressured, headed away by Joe Bendick, who dealt really well with that. Wasn't sure if he had hands at the edge of the box, and was able to clear it for Toronto, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on what you said, John, when times are hard, you need that experience. You need those roles, those personalities to say, you know what, we're not doing too well, we need to pick it up. And I think last year with so much youth, they couldn't get it right. So Ben Olsen realized it. He went out shopping and got some big names, some big players, some good personalities, and some players that should make a change.
Manella's cross drifts on goal, and Dykstra has to adjust and catch it in his chest right at the goal line. Again, Manella typically a wing for the Toronto Academy, but to get him on the field here, they're using him at outside back. DC United with it at the moment, bringing it around to the near side, and Sean Franklin. DC United in white going left to right in this first half. Toronto in red jerseys and black shorts going right to left. First preseason action for both. They were so relaxed before the game that Ryan Nelson said he had told Ben Olsen who his starting lineup was, so he didn't mind sharing it with us.
Yeah, it's preseason. They want to match up the right way. You don't want to put your first team out there and then you have your reserves, and then vice versa for the second half. So I don't think they're going to be doing that during the regular season for sure.
Ryan Richter at the back for Toronto. He's played right back, and he's in there at center back today. Davey Arno really pushing hard to apply pressure for DC United, forces Richter back to Joe Bendick. Made Stephen Fry expendable, took over the starting job last year, and looks to keep it this year. Chris Konopka and Quillen Roberts, the other goalkeepers. We'll see Konopka in the second half. And it's a throw into Justin Morrow, the left back, on this near touchline. 28th minute. No score between DC United and Toronto FC. There's Bradley trying to thread it through toward Osorio. It was broken up by Perry Kitchen. And DC goes forward looking for Connor Doyle. Good run and good fight to win the ball. And I beg your pardon, Doyle was farther infield. That was Silva. And in the end, Toronto comes away with it with Osorio. Reggie Lamb drops it off for Toronto. Wide left for Justin Morrow. All the way back, pass was off the mark, and this one is picked off by Connor Doyle. Able to hold it up well for DC United. They switch it to Taylor Kemp, waving players forward. DC trying to open up a bit here. There's Kyle Porter to De Leon. Back to Porter. Nice touch off his chest, and it's knocked out of bounds for a in on the United left-hand side.
Yeah, there's definitely been some good combination play on this left-hand side with Nick DeLeon, Kyle Porter, with Kemp. They've been finding themselves in some good spots and been really creative on this left.
Davy Arno almost took out Jonathan Osorio there. He was able to pull up and not do much damage with the tackle once he realized he was late. That's definitely something you'll see in preseason. Here's D-Row running at the DC back line. Di Rosario, top of the area, tried to pull it backward to the near post, and the shot didn't get through. And now Silva starts the break the other way for DC. This game much more wide open, Corey, than the Columbus game we saw earlier.
Yeah, definitely. I think team organization's been shocking, to be honest with you. A lot of numbers pushing forward, and a lot of heavy legs not willing to get back. So it's a bit different from what we saw in Columbus. But to be honest with you, talking to a lot of Columbus boys, they've been dealing with some heavy fitness. So they might be a lot sharper, a lot more fit going into that first match against Malmö than these two clubs have been doing in their preseason up to this stage. But, you know, me knowing Berhalter, that's the type of guy he is. He's very gritty, fitness first. He's going to see who's mentally tough to get through it and translate that into the match. And what we saw today is exactly that. The boys went out there, played 45 minutes, played extremely well, and it showed.
Michael Bradley with a steal there, and it led to Toronto switching the ball side to side. Justin Morrow's cross knocked away. And DC able to win it on that right-hand side with Sean Franklin. Bradley's been active, just as you would expect. He's lived up to the billing in this first game. Active, tidy on the ball, doesn't lose possession, able to get forward at times. So would you agree, from my perspective, check plus for Michael Bradley so far?
Definitely. I mean, always wanting the ball. That's what you want from your center midfielder. And not only always wanting the ball, very clean with it, very precise. Not making the 5 or 10-yard passes, but springing the 40 and 50-yard balls, pinpoint to his outside midfielders. That's exactly what you want from your center midfielder at that highest level. Similar to me like a Claudio Reyna.
31st minute, no score. DC restarts, finding De Leon on the left side, and he misjudged the bounce of that one, had it skip off the top of his head. Most important thing for these two teams for the whole preseason, not just tonight. These are teams that were the second to last in Major League Soccer in offense last year. Obviously struggled on the field, and it's starting over. It's starting fresh, and that means a lot of changes. Toronto probably has more holdovers than DC United, but it also means different attitude and trying to turn things around, and you can kind of feel it when you're around either team that so far, so good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, new faces mean new personalities. New personalities means it's a whole new locker room, and it's a different vibe. So you hope that you're piecing these pieces well to solve the puzzle. And, you know, we're not going to be able to know until the season starts and how the results come.
Kyle Porter got forward on the right there, fired in a cross that was knocked out. It'll be a DC United corner kick on this near right-hand side. Second corner for DC, matching Toronto's total in the game.
Kyle Porter, another player I really rate from last season. He's going to be very bright. He's been very, very bright in the offense today. He's gotten himself forward and created some good chances.
33rd minute as Porter prepares to deliver. Going back post, Arno is there, tried to lay it off for De Leon, and reading it well was Dwayne De Rosario. I think he's spent a lot of time in the DC United training grounds, knew where that one was going.
Yeah, definitely. He knows his team too well in every spot and everything that they're trying to do. Well, going back to D-Row, I think he's going to play a huge part with this club. Not only being able to play up top, but maybe potentially in the midfield. Mm-hmm. If they need him there, he'll be that guy. And I really see him in that first 11. A lot of people think he's going to come off the bench. I highly doubt it. I think Ryan Nelson has a lot of confidence of somebody up to that caliber to be on the pitch at all times and produce.
Long ball here for DC United, headed away and dealt with by the Toronto back line, and now it falls into the middle of the field. Aparicio drops it off for Osorio. Wiedemann racing forward on the right. Here's D-Row. Drives it to the near side to Justin Morrow. Bradley turns, chips it forward, spots the open Wiedemann on the right. Great cutback, shot coming, it's deflected, doesn't get through. Kept alive by Aparicio, and the offside flag is up. Nice stop in the end by Dykstra as well, but the flag was up and it wouldn't have counted. But there's the fluidity in attack that Ryan Nelson is going to smile about.
That's it, and that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. That ball from Michael Bradley. There was great combination play, but when he played that 50-yard ball, he found the open man on the right-hand flank, wide open to get that cross and service in. Normally a midfielder in MLS, no disrespect, would look for that 5 and 10-yard pass. He knows when to spot out the 40 and 50-yard pass, pinpoint, on pace to speed up that game.
35th minute, no score. Bradley turning in the midfield there and gets it out to Chris Manella, former captain of Toronto's under-19 team. Here's Aparicio on the right. Just his second year, has yet to make an MLS appearance. Gets the ball back, tried to spring it outside, but Taylor Kemp able to pick it off for DC United. De Leon took advantage of Manella there, got it ahead to Luis Silva. And he lost his touch for just a minute. Ryan Richter able to slide in for Toronto. And Manella recovers to go forward. Here's Lamb with Dero ahead of him. Ran into an offside spot. Lamb now finds Dwayne De Rosario. Broken up by the combination of Park and Kemp for DC United. The mist seems to have returned just a little bit, so we do apologize if you lose some visibility on the far side of the field. First preseason action for both teams. Toronto will continue at the Disney Pro Soccer Classic in late February in Orlando. We'll have those for you. And on Saturday night, DC will take on the Chicago Fire. We'll have that for you as well right here at MLSsoccer.com. That's 7 o'clock Eastern on Saturday night. Some games out in Tucson today. Seattle, San Jose, Houston, Portland among them. We'll update you on those scores a little later. And I know Vancouver is playing Indianapolis from the NASL as well tonight. That one runs out for a DC United throw-in on the far sideline right in front of the Toronto bench.
Again, Nick De Leon's been very bright. You know, a lot of success finding himself on the ball on that left-hand flank, building a lot of confidence. Hopefully, he can bring this in for the rest of the preseason and do some great things for this DC United club. He's going to be huge, and we expect to see Pontius back, of course, and add to the dimensions of how they're going to attack with Eddie Johnson and his spindle up top.
Bradley stepped in with a steal there, and De Rosario was fouled by Connor Doyle. It'll be a free kick to Toronto in the middle of the field. 37th minute, no score. Reminder, stick around at halftime. We're going to have Chris Pontius on headset with Samantha Yarrick from MLSsoccer.com. Chris still coming back from off-season hamstring surgery. But with the team, and it'll be good to catch up with his progress. I know he hopes to be ready for the start of the season.
It's going to be a huge player for them, huge. I've always liked Pontius. He's done great things offensively, defensively, creating, scoring goals, and we can definitely need him back.
Here goes Dero through the mist and over the top. That would have been some kind of spectacular return.
But wouldn't have surprised me.
No, it would have been just like his flair for the dramatic.
Exactly.
A fun night here, no score, 38th minute, lots of familiar faces between the teams. De Rosario, of course, the most familiar. These teams played 3 times last year, with Toronto getting 2 of its 6 wins on the season against DC United and tying the 3rd. Dero, of course, scored in 2 of the 3 games. Here's Michael Bradley in his own half, going to drive that long ball again. Looking for the run of Wiedemann. He brought it down, but Jeff Park able to get back, recover, and knock it away for a corner kick.
Again, Bradley, 60, 70-yard ball over the top. He didn't go right or left this time, straight forward. And that's what you want from a player of that caliber, and he's proving his worth tonight.
It's kind of got that Beckham-esque. I'm going to take the game, I'm going to look up, survey the field, and hit the perfect 60-yard pass, which we saw for so many years.
Not the easiest thing to do, trust me. I mean, back in my day, maybe.
Right. You were all over those. Jonathan Osorio to deliver the corner for Toronto. It's low, skips through everybody, and will get knocked back to the Toronto defenders, and DC able to clear the second effort as well. 39th minute preseason action from Bradenton, Florida. In the fog, DC United and Toronto FC. Toronto in red, DC United in all white. Ryan Richter goes back to Joe Bendick under pressure from Kyle Porter. We'll see a little bit younger look for DC United in the second half. Ben Olsen saying he had a couple roster spots on the senior side and a couple on the developmental side that he felt were still available and should have some good competition for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these players are going to be here competing for a spot for sure. And I think in the second half, these are the players that are really going to have to try and stand out and try and find themselves on a team. So tonight's match is going to be very important for them.
Free kick won by Osorio for Toronto. 5 goals last year in his rookie season. He won't turn 22 until June. I know you like Jonathan Osorio, and so does Canada. He had 6 appearances for Canada now in his very young career. As Reggie Lamb gets knocked down and a talking to for Davy Arnaud. The referee today, Caleb Mendez, and the assistants Mark Cahen and Jose De Silva. The free kick, I'm sure you can't tell on the screen. I'm sorry about that. It's on the far side of the field, about 35 yards off the end line. Jonathan Osorio stands over it in front of the the DC bench. Headed away by the DC back line. Reggie Lamb heads it back in. Offside flag is up against Ryan Richter as he challenged for it, and the whistle blows. It'll be a free kick for DC United. Things have calmed down a little bit. We had that really open, maybe 15-minute stretch. Is that both teams kind of getting some of their organizational shape as the kinks get worked out through the first 20 minutes?
Yeah, definitely. I think Ben Olsen and Ryan Nelson have both told their teams to stay compact as possible, move as a unit. If you're defending, everybody defend as one. When you're attacking, as much as possible, try and attack together. So it's definitely calmed down.
Reggie Lamb moving forward for Toronto with those great one-on-one skills, and Dero going to try his luck one more time and didn't have any on that hit. Well over the top.
It's good to see him getting chances on goal, though. He's been bright. He's had some good, successful shots. I think his free kick was a bit ambitious.
He's not shy, right?
But he's also made some good runs, and I think he's combined well in his time out here for the first 45.
He said one finger on his left hand was feeling lonely. He's got 4 rings, and he's looking for number 5. I don't know when and if it'll come for Dwayne De Rosario, but he sure would love to win it in his hometown.
Well, on paper, they have the players to do it this year. We'll just see how they play in the regular season.
42nd minute, no score between DC United and Toronto FC. Reminder to stay tuned at halftime. Corey and I will step out, and we'll have Chris Pontius in here to answer a few questions and discuss DC United and much more, so stick around for that. Andrew Wiedemann went inside the De Rosario, who was looking for some help. Bradley left-footed, tried to find Osorio wide on the left, and it was just out of his reach. Runs out for a goal kick. There's a look at Dykstra, 28 years old. As we look back at this DC United chance from earlier. Knocked away in front of Joe Bendick. That was at the other end. Right here in front of us, Reggie Lamb on the ball. And Justin Morrow will bring it back to Joe Bendick. Yep, fog has returned, dense as ever. When they upgrade the fog warning from fog to dense fog, you know you're in for a long night. So again, our apologies for the occasional loss of the ball on the far side of the field, an unavoidable hazard of preseason in Florida. Great cross there, put in by Aparicio and dealt with at the back post by DC United for another corner.
Great clearance by DC United. I think that was Sean Franklin, if I'm not mistaken. But hardest thing for a defender is to take a ball like that, and he's done well to spin his body and play it out wide.
Toronto took that one short. They cross it for De Rosario, and it's headed away and out for a throw-in. That short corner was definitively out of our view. This throw-in goes to Bradley, who has to deal with it under some pressure. About a minute and a half before the 45-minute mark as this cross drifts out of play for a DC United throw-in in its own half. And again, both teams will be making wholesale changes at halftime. For DC United, we expect it to be all 11. For Toronto, maybe 9, maybe 10, maybe all 11. Ball won by Osorio for Toronto. Bradley's pass that time. Got it back from Wiedemann. Kept going ahead to Di Rosario. Bradley continued his run into the box. Dero couldn't find him. Now the cross comes in, headed away by Boswell. Dero on the right flank, drops it backward. Now Bradley with it in the right channel. Chips it into the box, looking for the run of Wiedemann. It was headed away by Jeff Park. Bradley going to try it from distance with the left foot. And on a high bounce, it's no problem for Andrew Dykstra.
Definitely felt a bit ambitious there. I mean, everything else has been going right for him, so tries a left-footed 30-yard shot. Not a bad attempt by Bradley.
Final minute of the first half. DC United and Toronto FC scoreless in their preseason opener from IMG Stadium in Bradenton, Florida. Reggie Lamb, Dwayne De Rosario, Michael Bradley for Toronto FC. Osorio trying to hold on to the ball there, was dispossessed. Toronto able to win it back. Morrow's pass, though, was picked off. And this one knocked out of bounds for a throw-in. This is the most stoppage time I've ever seen in the first half of the first preseason game.
No, right.
Taylor Kemp knocks this one forward in the direction of Doyle. And there's the halftime whistle. I think we had about a minute of stoppage time there. No score at halftime between Toronto and DC United. Good scoring chances, though. We had very open first 20 minutes. We couldn't see all of it because of the fog, so we're not entirely sure how good some of those chances were. But both goalkeepers called into action. Corey, did you give an edge to either team through the first 45 minutes?
I think Toronto had a bit of the edge on this one. I think in terms of DC United, Nick DeLeon definitely showed well and was a bit bright. But I think Toronto, with Michael Bradley, of what he produced, Dero up top, he's done a lot of great things. Offensively, they look sharp, and they played a bit better defensively going into the end of the first half.
No score at the break. We're going to be joined during this halftime break by Chris Pontius. He hasn't quite stepped in just yet, but he's lurking somewhere on the press level here at IMG Stadium in Bradenton. Earlier today, Columbus beat Malmö from Sweden 1-0 in our first game. Jairo Arrieta, the lone goal of the game in the 50th minute on a scramble following a corner kick. And at the other end of the field for Columbus, the new goalkeeper Steve Clark, a big save in the 82nd minute to preserve the win. Columbus 1, Malmö 0. Other scores around Major League Soccer: Seattle 2, San Jose 1. Obafemi Martins 2 goals for Seattle in the first half. Mike Facito scored for San Jose in the second. Houston and Portland, Vancouver and Indianapolis are both in progress. We're going to step aside, take a quick break. We'll come back with Chris Pontius and Samantha Yerrick right here on MLSsoccer.com. Toronto and DC scoreless at the half. Back after this.
No one warned me about the first game. It didn't happen. Yeah, because I told them it wasn't possible. But then their sales guy. I thought they were able to separate. No. which no one ever told me that was the case here.
Yes,
Hey,
we're ready.
it'll be like 5 minutes out.
They have to, these ads have to cycle through.
Okay, is that okay? Sorry
Yeah.
about that. When they do that.
Dude, I cannot see it.
Yeah, I know.
I can't
It's
see.
pretty bad.
I can't see the far side, and I try to look at it even there, but it's reversed. I feel like I'm doing terrible. But
It's fine, man. I mean, it's everyone on the stream is complaining like they can't see it, and it's like,
I know.
yeah.
What do you want us to do about fog?
Right. No one has complained to me.
Part of the issue also, these cameras are on wire wires right now. Maybe if we switched out of wire wires, we would be able to fix it. I mean, maybe able to see it a little better.
Yeah, I mean,
Of course, in black and white, I don't know what you'd be able to do.
Yeah, this thing has been a mess all day. Almost like
that's not it.
Okay, look, I'm trying to go off for time.
Yeah, I don't understand her time.
time of day.
Yeah, it is.
That's
She
what she's
switched,
trying to
but
do.
I mean, I've got time of day here, so I've got to. It's by the minute, so it's
Right.
yeah, I got to find the minute.
And all the black ones that I wrote in, we're guessing them all.
Yeah.
I think it was in half, but like every time Corey and I started conversing about something, then there would be a big scoring chance that we'd be stuck doing something else.
Yeah. It was a good first half.
Yeah.
History's
Yeah, I got the same thing on the right-hand side, and it worked out perfectly. So,
So hopefully, when did you get this side done? I'll sit here.
just November 6th.
Yeah, I don't think I came to one DC game last year, but I don't remember if you played or not. I feel like you might have against LA.
Yeah.
You did play. Hello.
You just have to talk loud enough.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
You can hear me.
artistic genius.
All right, I
A
guess that's
lifetime
what's
imagining
important.
Fantastic creations that were never built until now. The Da Vinci Machines exhibition will amaze you with handcrafted creations taken from his centuries-old drawings and plans. See the first tank, first helicopter, and much more. And one low-priced combo ticket also lets you explore the wonders of the South Florida Museum. Get your tickets online today. Proudly sponsored by Bright House Networks.
Done well.
26. Good.
Awesome. Ask him if we're going. Sorry.
Jordan, what's the best vacation we've ever had?
And then you guys will be able to start doing that. We'll come 20 seconds. No cue.
Very random.
This one.
Bradenton, Anna Maria Island, Longboat Key. Real, authentic, Florida. Plan to visit online at Bradenton Gulf Islands.
Everybody, Samantha Yark for MLSsoccer.com here with DC United's Chris Pontius. Thanks for taking some time to come and talk with us.
Thanks for having me, Samantha.
So, Chris, based on what you've been able to see, despite the fog, what did you take away from the first half?
Yeah, I think a bit of rust on our side, and also you see the heavy legs from preseason, but there's some good combinations. You know, this is a pretty new team we're putting out. You know, there's a lot of rebuilding in the off season after last year, so the back four is new and trying to figure each other out, and also the offense is trying to get on the same page. So I thought it was, you know, we created some good chances. They had some good chances, and our keeper came up with some good saves. So overall, not a terrible half, and we got some fitness in, which is what we need right now.
And so, speaking of all the new faces, what's it been like during preseason with all the new guys?
It's actually been pretty easy. All the guys that we brought in have you know, great personalities, have fit in just you know, very well with the guys. So it hasn't been hard. There hasn't been any problems. You know, I think you start to see people open up a bit more over time. So you know, the first couple weeks people tend to be shy and feel each other out. But I think we've seen people start to open up over the past couple weeks, and you start to see their real personality. And it's, you know, it's been a pleasure to get to know the guys.
Yeah, I saw you and Sean Franklin walking, hanging out together, going to get groceries. So hopefully you will be back on the field playing with him soon. How are you doing? When can we expect a Chris Pontius return?
I'm doing okay. You know, just not going to rush things back. It's a long season. I'm not going to give. I don't know a timeline for my return. I want to be back as soon as I can, but in the right way, to where you know, I'm lasting through the whole season and not having any problems come back on this hamstring.
And what's it like to see Michael Bradley back out here in MLS?
It's good. It's good. You know, I like everything that the MLS is doing these past few years. You know, it just shows how this league is continuing to grow. Bringing back, you know, one of the top 3 American talents. It's great. So.
Does it make you want to get out there faster tonight?
It does. You know, I like competing against players, and why not compete against one of the best U.S. players? So I can't wait to play against him.
And have you been watching your old teammate D-Row out there tonight? Seeing that spunk, it feels like.
I think he's got an extra pep in his step tonight against us. I think, you know, he's obviously trying to show something. You know, I always enjoyed playing with D-Row. And so it's good to see him back in Toronto, you know, back in his hometown. So, you know, I think he'll have a good year.
And one last question. Based on what we've seen, do you think Ben Olsen is happy right now? What do you think he said to the team during halftime?
You know, I think he's relatively happy. It you know, takes a lot to get Benny happy. But no, I think he's relatively happy. I think this is obviously our first preseason game. There's not a lot to expect, but you want the guys to go out there, battle, get their fitness in, get some of the rust off, get to know each other a little bit better on the field, and I think that's what happened in that first half there. Obviously, the next few games you want to see improvement. So as long as you're seeing improvement, then I think he'll be happy with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you heal soon so we can get you back on the field and see you playing with your new team. So, well, not your new team, the new squad, your team. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Samantha.
Thanks.
Back here in Bradenton, Florida, no score at the half between Toronto FC and DC United. Our thanks to Chris Pontius for joining us at halftime. Jonathan Yardley and Corey Gibbs with you as we get set for the second half. And this one, still some fog with us, so bear with us. We're going to bring it to you as best as we can. Second half lineups we expect to see. Let's start with DC United. We feel a little more certain of that group of 11. Joe Willis will step in goal. The back four will be Jalen Robinson, the homegrown rookie out of Wake Forest. Connor Shinosky from Potomac Falls, Virginia, another homegrown player. Steve Birnbaum, the rookie number 2 pick out of Cal. And Travis Golden, a 4th-round pick trying to earn a contract out of Campbell. In the midfield, Zach Barnes, Jared Jeffrey, and Colin Martin will play in the middle. Barnes not under contract, rookie out of Creighton. Jared Jeffrey and Colin Martin both joined the club last year. And up front, Cristiano Francois, the 5'7", 20-year-old Haitian who left Maryland, will start on the right. Victor Munoz, another drafted rookie out of UCLA, will be wide on the left. And Michael Seaton, still only 17, will be up front. For Toronto, there's a couple of question marks. We know Chris Konopka is going to step in goal. Gale Agbosumonde and Daniil Henry will play center back. Ashton Morgan will play left back. We're awaiting word on the right back, and he hasn't taken the field just yet, so we'll let you know when he has. In the midfield, it'll be Jeremy Hall and Kyle Becker in the middle, with Alvaro Ray expected to go on the left. And it looks like Issy Nakajima Ferran, a Canadian international trying to earn a deal, will play wide on the right. Up front, it'll be Bright DK, Marie Welshman. So we have 11 Toronto players out there. Let's figure out who the right back is out of this group. And it looks like Matthias Laba is going to play right back. We were told he might play right mid, but he's at right back as we get underway in this second half. Toronto in red, attacking left to right. DC United in white, attacking right to left. Jonathan Yardley, Corey Gibbs with you, along with a good amount of fog. So bear with us if and when you can't see it, and keep in mind it's entirely possible that we can't see it. Just underway, 46 minute. Corey, these second groups, very different looks, and I'd say a lot younger and a lot more inexperienced on each side. Who are the players in these groups you're most looking forward to seeing?
I mean, definitely Francois. I've heard a lot of great things about him, to see how he's going to come out here. Jeffrey, I know well from last season. I want to see how he fares in with the second team coming into this into the second half of the first game of the preseason. But also, there's going to be a lot of names that are in here, but a lot of them fighting for a starting position. So we're going to see a lot of competition in this second half. I don't think they're just going to sit back and play. So it should be an interesting one.
Just underway in this second half, 47th minute, as Toronto won that one and tries to get forward on the right side with Alvaro Ray. And it's free kick back at the halfway line. Issy Nakajima Ferran is actually going to play on the left and Ray on the right. That's a reverse of how it was presented to us. This one chipped forward in the direction of Ashton Morgan, the young left back, and he couldn't bring it in. It'll be a throw in to DC United on the far side of the field from our cameras in front of the Toronto bench. Our first look at Jalen Robinson, couple of years at Wake Forest. He won't turn 20 until May, and signed as a homegrown player by DC United this offseason. Ashton Morgan working with Welshman, and Nakajima Ferran tried to play it to Morgan. It's going to run out in the corner for a DC United goal kick.
Ashton Morgan, another Canadian product, what I like a lot. You know, he's going to add a lot of pace, a lot of electric excitement on that left-hand flank, and he's going to be another attacking force, not only playing at that left-back position, but he's able to join the attack and give some options for those forwards.
Fourth MLS season for Ashton Morgan, who will turn 23 on Saturday. Heavy collision in the middle, and we play through it, and now another collision with the aforementioned Morgan. And Kyle Becker pleading with the referee for a call there, but it's going to be a free kick to DC United in the end. Luckily, Morgan gets to his feet okay. This is Zach Barnes on the ball for DC United ahead, looking for Seaton, able-bodied teenager, and he's whistled for a foul. Big kid, Michael Seaton, up front there. Spent most of last year on loan with the Richmond Kickers in USL Pro. 5 goals and 1 assist as a 17-year-old is not too shabby, even at that level.
Definitely not, and it's going to be interesting to see how he develops within himself and show himself for his second season.
Clearance there by Birnbaum, the rookie out of Cal, and Toronto collects at the halfway line with Becker. Henry tried to get it out wide to Nakajima Ferran. It's broken up by the right back, Jalen Robinson. Here goes Colin Martin for DC, another Wake Forest product. Wide on the right for Francois. Now here's Barnes out of Creighton. Switches to the left-hand side. Knocked forward into the corner for DC, and it's picked off by Ray, tracking back for Toronto. And it'll be a free kick for Toronto. So a little scrappy in the early stages of the second half as both these groups try to get used to each other. Daniil Henry, who saw plenty of time starting for Toronto. He's played center back. He's played right back in his MLS career. They certainly see him as a center back at this point. He's on the ball right now. And he's like Morgan. They're about the same age and have come up together as part of that very young Toronto back line. And let's be honest, Corey, it's been baptism by fire for these guys playing on a struggling team.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's the growing pains that they have to learn. It's going to be interesting to see how they fit in this year with, you know, Defoe and Bradley, and how they could demonstrate themselves playing with that type of high class. So we'll see how they, grow in themselves.
Neat moves by Ray going back post.
Ooh.
Great stop. Diving by Joe Willis to knock it away for DC United. Denying Nakajima Ferran at Willis's right-hand post.
Definitely great save by Willis. I mean, that shot was going straight in. He's done well to parry that one out.
And Alvaro Rey was setting it all up, the 24-year-old in his second season out of Spain. Only 13 games last year. He showed great moves in one end of the field, got to the other end and set up the chance. Kyle Becker delivers the corner, and it's headed out by DC United. Still with Toronto, though. Nakajima Ferran out to Becker. Into the middle of the field, Ashton Morgan for Toronto. Swings it to Ray. Again, very good one-on-one player. Let's see if he tries some here. Left-footed cross coming in, and it's right at Joe Willis, and it's comfortable in the end for him.
Kyle Becker, going back to him, it was a bit disappointing season last year. I think
here's a look back at the chance. Wide open for Nakajima Ferran, who got it on target, but Joe Willis covered it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Kyle Becker, going back to what we were saying, a bit disappointing last year with the product that he brought. A lot of people were expecting big things from him.
Number 3 pick.
Number 3 pick, and, he had his opportunity. They weren't the big names to overshadow him, and it's going to be very hard for him to get on the pitch this year with all these big boys that are stepping in.
So a foul whistled here and a free kick to DC United, and it has Toronto very frustrated, particularly Agbo Sumonde there. And it'll be a free kick to DC United about 25 yards away from goal. Jared Jeffrey standing over, and of course he scored a screamer against Toronto last year on his left foot. This one on his right. Plays it in, and it's punched out by Chris Konopka. Kept alive for DC United. Here's Francois. Right-footed cross. The header is wide of the mark. It was Birnbaum still up there from the set piece who got ahead to it but couldn't get it on target.
Good chance by DC United. Looking a lot more brighter than they were in the first half. Good opportunity. Francois getting down that right flank. Good chance on goal.
Speaking of brighter, fog, knock on wood, has lifted slightly. Again, we
can finally see the whole pitch.
We can wave to the far touchline for the first time in a while. 53rd minute, no score between Toronto FC and DC United. We're at the IMG Stadium in Bradenton, Florida. Plenty of preseason action here in a 2 or 3 week span. And we've, again, finally got some visibility, so hopefully that's picked up for you at home as well. Nakajima Ferran has really been bright here. He's one of the more experienced players who comes in without a contract trying to earn one. And Toronto brings it backward to Agba Sumonde. Still only 22. He finds Becker on the far side for Toronto. Now Morgan. Good move by Morgan to get around Francois, but Jeffrey stepped in, won it, he thought, cleanly, and Caleb Mendez, the referee, has called a foul. I don't know if it was on Francois or on Jeffrey, but it's a free kick for Toronto. 54th minute, glad you could join us as Toronto takes this one quickly. Ray in the corner against Francois. Brings it out to Kyle Becker. Becker tried to drive it in low, and it was knocked away to the Toronto back line. Been in MLS since 2007. Still looking for that first playoff appearance for those great fans in Toronto that have brought so much life to the league and then seen constant struggles on it. But again, great hope rekindled this offseason. And when we talked to Stephen Caldwell, Ryan Nelson, Dwayne De Rosario, and Michael Bradley yesterday, just radiated positivity ahead of the new season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's such a club with so much fan support, and it's so disappointing that they haven't made the playoffs. But I think this year they definitely have a good go at it, and, MLS Cup contention winners.
Foul whistle at the back. It'll be a free kick to DC United. And that's kind of the question that, you can't ask anybody associated with the team because it doesn't really work that way. You can't ask in the preseason is anything less than the playoffs a failure, but there is pressure on this team. When you bring in the names, the likes of which they've brought in, barring a major injury to one of them, the expectation is there that this is a playoff season.
I mean, you don't bring these guys in to just make the playoffs. You bring them in for sure, the money that you're spending to try and win the whole thing. Yes, I do think they still lack certain areas that they need to improve on. That being said, they have.
Where particularly are those areas for you?
My major concerns are the center back positions. I
Yeah.
think defensively they need to solidify themselves. They've done a great job with Defoe, who's a prolific goal scorer. They've done a great job in the center of the midfield with Michael Bradley, solidifying him there. I think they have a lot of flair and a lot of pizzazz on the outsides. I just think that center back position could be a lot more firm, and I think they need to seek a couple players in that area.
Martin tried to drive that switch, and the ball cleared by Toronto. Again, Laba stepping over to right back, guy who's normally in a defensive midfield role, and a guy whose contract situation needs to get sorted out before Toronto can start the season.
Like probably 90% of these guys out there right now.
My contract situation needs to be sorted out too. I think yours does. 57th minute, no score here between Toronto and DC United. Nakajima Ferran lost the ball briefly there, but it's picked up by Laba and kept for Toronto at the back. Nine shots for Toronto in the game unofficially, 5 for DC United. I might have missed one or two in the fog. And in this half, the best chance saved by Joe Willis in the 51st minute, denying Issy Nakajima Ferran at the back post. Morgan, good first touch to get around Francois, but once again, the interior player able to step in for DC United, in this case, Jared Jeffrey. Colin Martin got a foot to that, goes tumbling, and the foul called against Jeremy Hall in the middle of the field for Toronto.
I love the energy of Ashton Morgan. I think he just needs to calm himself down just a little bit. I think that's been the big downfall from his game, and stop being so erratic at times. Know when to go forward. It doesn't need to be every time, because he's getting caught out of position. It's going to leave DC opportunities to fill those spaces.
Jeffrey springs it wide for Francois. Chance to go one-on-one. Little step over, drops it off for Robinson. His cross easily dealt with by the center of the Toronto back line. And now Agbo Sumonde heads the second one away. Here's Francois again, 5'7" Haitian, who came up after the earthquake in Haiti. Managed to get a scholarship to St. Benedict's Prep, the legendary soccer factory in Newark. Ended up at Maryland, only played 1 year due to academic issues, but signed by the league and picked up by DC United this preseason. This one played into the corner, and it should be a throw-in for DC United, and it is, as that one deflected out off of Laba.
Good play by Francois. We just saw him on the flank, doing a little bit of flair, doing a bit of creativity. I think this is something that DC needs. They get a lot of it from Nick DeLeon. We don't know when Chris Pontius is going to come back, so he might be a good fixture for them.
Well, and Ben Olsen said he's a project. You know, he's still only 20. I don't know how many first-team minutes he's going to see this year, and neither does Ben Olsen at this point, but he's shown something in camp so far for Olsen to talk about him the way he has.
Yeah, but my thing is you're only going to get better by minutes and by playing. He's 20. You know, who says we can't start these kids at 16, 17? You know, 20 in England, 20 in Europe, that's old. So, I mean, he's at a good age. He's only going to get better if he has talent in him to progress him by getting minutes in, learning the hard way, and then he'll progress in due time. Does Ben Olsen have that luxury of waiting till he gets, develop into something? That's the next question. But you definitely see a bit about him. He's been bright. He's attacked well. He's shown a bit of flair and creativity. And even though it is preseason, you definitely see a bit about him.
Big collision there between Welshman from Toronto and Birnbaum from DC, both players up and okay. And so much talk this offseason has been about the USL Pro partnership. And DC United, one of the early clubs that made use of that with the Richmond Kickers last year. Michael Seaton, we talked about, got big minutes. There's Francois again with a couple step-overs. This pass comes to Barnes, now with Colin Martin. Taylor Kemp, Andrew Dykstra, some of the other players from DC that got serious minutes with Richmond. as Toronto tries to come out of the back. This is Welshman. Didn't see a whole lot of playing time last year, just one MLS game out of Mississauga. And Toronto has it at the back. This is Becker picking it up deep. Haven't seen much of Jeremy Hall on the ball in this second half. Long switch by Becker to Nakajima Ferran.
Well done by Francois to track back, though. I mean, beautiful 60-yard pass.
To Morgan wide left. His low cross easily dealt with by the center of that DC defense. Here's Jeremy Hall on it for Toronto. Jeremy Hall actually wearing the captain's armband in this second half as Becker's pass is easily picked off by Jeffrey for DC United. Now Zach Barnes on the ball. 2 years at SMU, 2 years at Creighton. Picked in the third round of this year's draft. And a roster squeeze for those final 2 spots on the off-budget roster. And Barnes is part of that. Still with DC United right now and in there at defensive mid.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle. I mean, from what we know, there's about 4 or 5 fighting for 2 spots right now.
On the left side, this is Golden, another one battling for those spots. Golden, top of the area, going to hit it over the top.
Yeah, great strike. Way to cut in on that left-hand flank. He's been getting forward quite a bit, and it's good to see him getting a right-footed strike on goal. Bit unlucky with that.
He's a center back by trade. They've been playing him at left back more out of necessity than anything else. Guy out of Austin, Texas, played with the Aztecs 2 years ago. And Campbell University the last 4 years.
Oh.
Thankfully, both players okay after sliding into that one.
Hard tackle on Ashton Morgan there.
Right in front of the benches. DC United in white going right to left in this second half. Toronto FC in red. No score. We're in the 63rd minute. A lot of chances in the first half. They've dried up somewhat in this second half. I think both coaches feel more regulars in that first half, and that is a better idea of how these teams will, they hope, find some entertainment this year as that pass goes awry for a Toronto throw-in. DC opens the season Saturday, March 8th against the Columbus Crew at RFK Stadium. Toronto has a bye that first week that Ryan Nelson is plenty aware of and opens on the 15th.
That's going to be a game. Columbus Crew against DC United at RFK.
You are excited about that.
Oh, I'm buzzing. I can't wait for this. Ben Olsen and the boys, all those acquisitions that he just got. Bearhalter being the new coach for Columbus. It's going to be a good one.
Long ball by Toronto, crossed in and headed away. Now knocked in harmlessly to Joe Willis. Shinosky and Birnbaum, the center back pairing in the second half for DC United. And Shinosky's another one who got time in the minors, both with Richmond last year and in the NASL before that. Now at the age of 22, he would like to stake himself to some playing time for this DC United defense. Unfortunately for him, veteran center backs was one of the major points of Ben Olsen's offseason.
Fought and got those things done. Some positive reinforcements, and it's going to be big for their side. It's important. He lacked in a lot of areas. We have to be honest. He didn't do well offensively, and he admitted we didn't do well defensively also. Nobody was to blame but the whole team and himself. So they've definitely strengthened almost every single area. So it's a brand new face for this DC United team. And, you know, positive things can come out of it, you know, or we're just going to see how it pans out from the first game of the season.
Rough pass at the back for Toronto. Straight up the gut for Martin. His shot knocked aside by Konopka. Still loose for DC. Here's Jeffrey. He and Martin interchange. Martin tried to get it back onto that right foot. Couldn't do it. Big save by Chris Konopka there. 65th minute, one of the best chances for DC. Now a shot from outside. Not going to give him much trouble, but Konopka, big when called upon there.
Yeah, definitely.